So, Konrad Curze, The Night Haunter by Guy Haley. Fun fact, this is actually the first 40k book that I've ever read. I got it because the cover looked pretty cool. I had no clue who this Konrad Curze was or what a Night Lord was or anything. I was there to buy some paints for my Dark Elves. Regardless, I loved the book and it sucked me into the wonderful world of 40k, so in a way you have this book to blame for the existence of these reviews. Anyway, enough about me, let's look what makes this book so amazing. First of all, the story structure is extremely interesting. Konrad Curze is on Zangula, awaiting his fate that he has foreseen countless times already. But before Amshen arrives, he first wants to say some final words to his dear old dad, Big E himself. To do this, he has built a statue of the Emperor out of corpses, obviously, and the rest of the book is basically his confession to this grotesque statue. The majority of the book is then composed of a series of flashbacks, with a commentary from Curze himself. I won't spoil the contents of these flashbacks, but they basically tell you all there is to know about Konrad and his legion. Where it all started, how Konrad became the way he is, the terrible visions, the hatred from his brothers, the evil of his home planet, and the madness. The same holds true for his legion. We see the start, how it got poisoned, its fall, the death of Nostromo, and more. The book tells so much, it is almost a complete comprehensive summary, while at the same time the story is compelling and full of emotion. Another great thing is that it shows all sides, almost like a documentary. It lets you decide whose fault it all really is. We see Konrad at his best, desperately trying to keep it all together, but we also see him at his worst when the madness takes hold of him. We get to see his methods, sacrifice the few to save the many, but we also get to see the horrific reality of what happens to those few. The book doesn't try to glorify the Night Lords, but it also doesn't convict them entirely. The complexity of the morality of the Night Lords makes this a very interesting read indeed. It's also truly heartbreaking at many points in the story. You see Konrad getting beaten and beaten time and time again. This guy really can get a break. But the worst part is at the end, when eventually the corpse statue starts to talk back to him. Again, I won't spoiler it for you, but fuck me, that's a heavy part. And I mean it in a good way, of course. Another side is there's also plenty of dark humor in the book. These are Night Lords after all, I mean what do you expect? For an example, at one point Konrad is stuck on a ship and he gets bored. So he captures 100 rats and crucifies them all, creating a miniature battlefield with 100 crucified and sometimes vivisected rats. I also really liked how Konrad starts his confession with, "Forgive me, father, for I have sinned." And he then gets annoyed because there's no one there to laugh at his little witty remark. I could also go on and on and on about the jokes in this book, but you get the point. If you like dark humor, then you'll like this book. The book also features every other Night Lord of note, from Sevatar to Shang and from the Painted Count to Talos' Regi Warband. Their inclusion is nice on one hand, as it makes this an even more complete guide to the Night Lords, but on the other hand, some were really not all that necessary. And you can really notice a difference in writing between ADB and Haley if you've read the books. The book also talks a great deal about fate. Can you change it? Is it set in stone? Or can you influence it, but merely to an extent? It's a question we see very often in 40k, and the book again is pretty neutral on this. Just like Konrad himself, you will have to struggle with the question of how changeable fate is. You get to see an example where fate probably could have been changed, which would have had a great impact on the story of 40k. But we also see Konrad trying to change his fate and failing time and time again. Not to mention, we all know how well that went for Sanguinius and the Emperor, of course. Finally, the rest of the story is handled with proper attention as well. The setting is grim dark and fitting. The interactions with the other Primarchs feel right and contribute to the story, and the side characters are properly written as well. All in all, this book obviously gets 5 out of 5 crucified rats. I really can't imagine a better Primarch book. It tells you everything you would like to know about the Night Lords and their Primarch in a compelling and heartbreaking story, while doing justice to the Night Lords and the other Primarchs. This is a must read for anyone really, with the exception of those with a weak stomach, that is. Then for the tier list. This book ends up above the Angron novel. The other 5-star novels were all great, but this one really takes the crown. It contains the most information out of any of the Primarch books, and is in my opinion the most tragic one as well. Anyway, that's all I got for you today.
If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and click ringing the bell to appease the Great Horned Rat. For more lore content, please check my main channel and leave any book recommendations in the comments down below. I gotta get back to reading the next book.